What if everything you thought you knew about love was just, well, kind of half-baked?
Yeah, or what if the things we're actually chasing, the things we think build connection, are really sabotaging our deepest desires?
Exactly. Welcome, everyone, to The Deep Dive. This is where we crack open some really profound topics to pull out surprising facts, essential insights.
And today, we're diving deep into an incredibly raw set of source materials. Really insightful stuff that challenges how we usually think about love, relationships, even personal healing.
Right. And these aren't just theories pulled out of thin air. This is distilled wisdom, born from some real personal pain and a really strong desire to empower you, the listener.
Our mission today really is to give you a shortcut, a way to get truly well-informed about those hidden blueprints that shape your love life.
And the red flags, too, right? The ones that shout unspoken warnings.
Absolutely. And that whole journey of healing that actually makes real love possible. We hope you walk away with clarity, some practical tools, and maybe a fresh perspective on what loving and being loved truly means.
Okay, let's dive in then. The source material for this deep dive is, it's intensely personal. The author mentions writing it in the depths of dark, silent nights, in moments of pain and distress after a really tough breakup.
It starts in a very vulnerable place. He describes the separation so vividly. She didn't leave a note, not even a text, just took Mila and disappeared into Nairobi's fog. That's heavy.
Yeah, and that led to this really painful moment of self-confrontation.
It did. He talks about how a pastor challenged him very directly, saying, write down every wrong you ever did to her.
And his first reaction was resistance, right? Like he was the one who got hurt.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the pastor cut right through that pride, saying, because this is about your healing, not your pride. And that moment, that pivot, it seems like that's the catalyst for everything that follows in this material.
That really hits hard. And that's where the shift happened. He actually sat down, made that list, how he shut down, how he mocked her, dismissed her fears as just drama.
Even using silence as a weapon in arguments?
Yeah. And it wasn't about getting justice for himself, was it? It was about facing his own blindness to my own brokenness.
Mm-hmm. And he has this powerful realization. True healing doesn't come through justice. It comes through truth. That painful honesty was the key.
Which led him into what he calls shadow work and self-awareness. He realized he couldn't just, pray away the trauma or quote scriptures to fix his dysfunction.
Right. He says healing required more than worship songs and sermons. It required action, humility, help, which is a huge step for anyone.
So he sought professional help at Karoma Lane Medical Center, he mentions, and he's really clear that the diagnosis, the medication, it wasn't an escape hatch.
No, he calls it a stabilizer, a stepping stone, a
Yeah.
quiet lifeline, which is such a great way to put it. It acknowledges the need for support without seeing it as a weakness.
A quiet lifeline. I like that. And what's fascinating is this core insight he gains. Healing is not a destination. It's a rhythm. It's ongoing.
Yeah, and therapy started peeling back layers, right? Revealing things he hadn't seen before. Emotional manipulation, people-pleasing, masks as love, codependency passed down like inheritance.
Wow. So this whole journey revealed this fundamental truth. Our relationships aren't random. They often mirror our unhealed parts. We replay these patterns.
Exactly. And that brings us right to this foundational idea in the source. Love isn't random. It states very clearly, we don't fall in love, we fall into patterns.
Fall into patterns. Okay, so what shapes these patterns? The source mentions like 17 factors, but let's dive into the big ones, starting with family of origin.
Right. How love, or maybe neglect, happened in childhood creates our first love script. It's like the blueprint we unconsciously follow.
So if affection was conditional, maybe you become a people pleaser, always looking for that external thumbs up.
Precisely. Or if your emotional needs were ignored, maybe you learn emotional withdrawal as a survival tactic, which down the line makes real intimacy incredibly difficult.
So our first experiences kind of pre-program us. That makes a lot of sense when you look back. And building on that, the source talks about past trauma.
Yeah. Neglect, abuse, or chaos during early years causes wounds. And these wounds create defense mechanisms, fear, mistrust, maybe even numbness.
And it's not just childhood trauma, right? Adult trauma can trigger similar patterns.
Absolutely. And this leads to that incredibly vivid quote. If you don't heal from what broke you, you will bleed on people who didn't cut you.
Ooh, that's a call to take responsibility, isn't it? You can't keep hurting others because you're hurt.
It really is. And a huge part of this, often overlooked, is what the source calls the father wound.
The father wound. Explain that a bit.
It's described as a silent, devastating crisis. growing up without a healthy, present parent figure, specifically highlighting the father role here. The idea is children need both masculine and feminine energies to become whole adults.
Okay. And if that's missing?
It can lead to a deep identity crisis, affecting self-discipline, boundaries, even how you understand your own gender, leaving you asking, what does it mean to be a man? Or what does it mean to be a woman?
And those unanswered questions create insecurity in relationships later on.
Exactly. Which leads to this really stark point. The harsh reality of unhealed trauma in relationships. The source puts it bluntly. Two traumatized people can't build heaven.
They don't build heaven, they build cycles, like a repeating loop of pain.
Right. The author's own painful realization was, no one taught me how to love. Not deeply, not responsibly, not sacrificially. It shows that love, just as a feeling, isn't enough if the trauma isn't being addressed.
So this connects directly to attachment styles, right?
Huh?
Our unseen blueprints, how our earliest experiences wire us.
Precisely. Our caregivers, basically.
Yeah.
Let's touch on the three main insecure styles mentioned. First, there's anxious or preoccupied attachment.
Okay, what causes that one?
Often, it's inconsistent emotional availability from caregivers. Maybe love felt conditional.
So the person ends up always seeking reassurance, fearing abandonment.
Yeah, exactly. They might cling to unavailable or inconsistent partners.
Yeah.
It's like they're always waiting for the other shoe to drop, needing constant validation. It can be exhausting for everyone involved.
Okay, then what about avoidant or dismissive attachment?
That often comes from caregivers who were emotionally unavailable, maybe even rejecting. They might have pushed for extreme independence too early.
So these individuals struggle to express feelings. They avoid intimacy.
Right, they might seem really self-sufficient, almost detached. When their partner expresses vulnerability, they tend to shut down or disengage. They build walls.
Makes connection really hard, I imagine. And the last one, fearful avoidant or disorganized.
This one's a bit of a paradox. It usually stems from caregivers who were sources of both comfort and fear. Maybe unpredictable, chaotic, or frightening.
So they want intimacy, but they're also terrified of it.
Exactly. It's this constant push-pull. They desire intimacy, but are afraid of it, so they alternate between emotional closeness and withdrawal. It creates a lot of internal conflict and can be very confusing for a partner.
That sounds incredibly difficult to navigate, but the source offers hope, right? It's not set in stone.
Definitely not. The source reminds us, your biology is not your destiny. Healing is possible. We can develop what's called earned secure attachment.
Earned secure. How does that happen?
Through things like self-reflection, therapy, healthy relationships, and for this author, spiritual grounding was key too.
Yeah.
It's about learning to trust love again, even if you never had it modeled.
Learning to trust love again. That's powerful. It sets the stage for a different kind of love story.
Exactly. One built on security, not just repeating old patterns.
So if our past shapes us like this, what is love then? We tend to think butterflies, right? Movie moments.
But the source really challenges that. It says, love without knowledge leads to trauma. And even more provocatively, attraction can be trauma in disguise.
Whoa, so the initial pull towards someone might actually be our unresolved stuff calling out.
It can be, yeah. It might feel familiar, even if familiar means unhealthy. So, to understand love better, the source digs into the ancient Greek definitions, helps us see its different faces, its dimensions.
Okay, let's explore those. First up, eros. That's the obvious one.
Right. That's the fiery, magnetic, physical attraction, the passion, the chemistry. It gets things started.
But it's not enough on its own. The source says it can become obsession, addiction, or lust if it's not balanced.
Exactly. Then you have philia. This is crucial. It's friendship and companionship, the real glue of a relationship.
The glue, I like that. Without philia, a relationship becomes a transaction. That's quite a statement.
It is. Philia is that deep affection, seeing your partner as an ally, a safe harbor. It's sharing the quiet moments, not just the big ones. It provides stability when eros fades.
Okay, what else? This is fascinating.
Then there's agape. This one's profound. It's unconditional, sacrificial love.
So not based on feelings.
No, the source says it's not rooted in feelings, but in choice. It's the love that forgives, that endures, that gives without demanding return. It's called the antidote to selfishness.
That's the kind of love that, wow, allows people to overcome really hard things, infidelity, deep wounds, because it's a conscious decision.
Precisely. And alongside that, you have pragma. This is the enduring, practical love.
Practical. How so?
It's the love that's seen childbirth, funerals, debts, and disappointments, yet still says, I choose you. It's built
Yeah.
on daily decisions, shared goals, commitment. It's the love of legacy.
Maybe not as flashy as Eros, but it's what builds a life together.
Absolutely. And finally, there's philastia.
Self-love.
Self-love. Why is that included?
Because the source warns, without philastia, every other form of love becomes distorted. Healthy self-love gives you boundaries, self-respect, the courage to leave dysfunction. It's the foundation of identity. You love from wholeness, not to get whole. That's a really important distinction. Okay, so with these different dimensions of love, the source then talks about types of lovers, how these things play out in personalities.
Yeah, personality is often shaped by those past wounds we talked about. For example, the romantic.
The one who loves the idea of love.
Exactly. More than the actual person sometimes. They can overlook huge red flags because they're caught up in the fantasy.
Okay. Then there's the opposite end, maybe. The narcissist.
Right. Sees love purely as a reflection of themselves, lacks empathy, and tends to discard people when their needs aren't met. Love is just an ego boost for them. It's incredibly damaging.
Devastating. Is there a positive example?
Yes, the secure lover, this is the person who has done the inner work. They're described as the goal.
Because they face their stuff. They love from a place of wholeness.
Exactly. It shows what's possible when that healing journey is embraced. They're rare, the source suggests, but they represent the potential.
Okay, this is really clarifying. And how does this tie into Dr. Gary Chapman's work, The 5 Love Languages?
Great connection. The source brings this in powerfully. It emphasizes that love can be present, but if not properly communicated, it will go unrecognized. Love needs to be translated.
Translated, so it's not enough just to feel it or even show it in your way.
Right. If your partner feels love through, say, quality time, but you keep giving gifts, you're both trying, but the message isn't landing. Your love may go unheard, as the source puts it.
So understanding your partner's language and your own is critical for that love to actually be received.
Absolutely critical. It transforms how you communicate and connect.
This focus on clarity, on understanding, it leads right into the next part, doesn't it? The importance of defining the relationship, DTR.
Yes. Why clarity is love, essentially. Especially in today's culture of undefined connections, blurred lines, and vibes over values.
Right. That situationship culture. What's the cost of that lack of definition?
The source highlights it clearly. You invest deeply in someone who has no intention of building with you. And maybe worse, you lose yourself while trying to earn what should be given freely.
Ouch, losing yourself trying to earn love.
Yeah. The core message is powerful. Clarity saves hearts. Definition prevents delusion. And even more directly, undefined love is unsafe love.
Unsafe love. It's about having the courage to ask, what are we doing here to protect your own heart and energy?
Exactly. And if they can't define it, the source warns they're not ready to carry it.
So beyond just defining it, the sources talk about needing a blueprint for partnership, right?
Yeah.
Something beyond just feelings. It mentions specific biblical roles.
It does. It outlines roles from that specific theological framework,
Yeah.
describing the man's role as a kind of sacrificial leader, a vision carrier, protector, provider, initiator, servant leader.
Okay, and the woman's role.
Framed as a divine strategist, an atmosphere setter, life giver, soundboard, wise counselor, legacy builder.
So different functions, but working together.
Right. The key point emphasized is mutual submission, where both partners yield not out of fear, but out of reverence and trust. It's not about domination, but partnership.
And that idea, marriage is not 50-50, it's 100-100.
Right.
Full commitment from both.
Precisely. It's about both bringing their whole selves to the partnership.
Okay, so if you have that kind of commitment and blueprint, what are the actual building blocks? The source calls them the unseen bricks, the pillars of a healthy relationship.
Yes. Let's unpack a few absolutely crucial ones. First, communication, called the breath and backbone.
More than just talking, right?
Much more. It's speaking truth with love, active listening without getting defensive, clarifying assumptions, avoiding those you always or you never bombs.
Using I feel statements instead to express needs without placing blame.
Exactly. Seems basic, but it's where so many relationships stumble.
Okay, pillar number 2.
Honesty, described as the bedrock of safety. And this isn't just not telling lies.
It's about being fully known, no hidden parts.
Right. Subtle dishonesty withholding info, half-truths that erodes trust just as much. The source says you cannot build something sacred on top of secrets.
Secrets kill intimacy from the inside. Makes sense. What else?
Trust, called the currency of connection. It's built slowly, through consistency, transparency, protecting each other's vulnerabilities.
And broken easily. By lies, hiding things, dismissing concerns.
Very easily.
Yeah.
And closely tied to that is consistency, the gentle rhythm of security.
Meaning,
Meaning, if your partner never knows which version of you they're going to get, warm one day, cold the next, they can't rely on you. They'll stop trusting any of them, as the source puts it. It creates anxiety.
instability, yeah. And last pillar you mentioned.
Vision alignment. This is huge.
Mm.
Purpose before passion.
Okay. What does that mean in practice?
It means ensuring you're heading in a similar direction in life. Shared core values, similar life goals. If you marry a person with a beautiful heart but a different life blueprint, the relationship becomes a war zone.
Even with love, if you're pulling in opposite directions on fundamental things, it won't work long term.
Exactly. Passion isn't enough to bridge fundamental differences in vision.
So with these pillars in mind, the focus shifts slightly, right, to non-negotiables before you choose forever. Choosing who to build with.
Yes. Moving from building with someone to wisely choosing who, the source uses a framework: character, capacity, calling, and clarity.
Okay, so what are some key non-negotiables under that framework?
Well, emotional maturity is a big one. Can they take accountability, regulate their emotions,
Mm-hmm.
or do they blame and project?
Crucial. What else?
Healing in progress. This is so important. You don't need a perfect person. You need a person aware of their brokenness and committed to healing.
So not someone who thinks they're flawless, but someone actively doing the work.
Exactly. That willingness to grow is key. Another one is accountability structures.
Meaning they answer to someone. Mentors, counselors.
Yes. The source says a person with no authority above them becomes dangerous when conflict arises. Having external perspective and accountability is vital.
That's a really interesting point. And respect for boundaries, I assume.
Absolutely paramount. Someone who constantly pushes your limits, ignores your no. That's a massive red flag. It shows a fundamental lack of respect, regardless of their words.
Yeah. The overall message seems to be you're not looking for perfection.
No, you are asking for alignment, accountability, and intentionality. It's about choosing someone ready for a healthy, committed relationship.
Which requires discernment, not just getting swept away. Okay, but even with the best choices, challenges happen. Conflict happens.
Always. Which brings us to personality and conflict. How you fight matters. It's not just about compatibility, but the psychology of peace.
And the idea that you don't really know someone until you've seen how they fight.
It's so true. The source mentions different personality types, sanguine, choleric, etc., and how they might handle conflict differently. The assertive type might dominate, the passive type might withdraw.
But the point isn't the conflict itself.
No, it's how it's managed. Poor conflict management destroys relationships, not the disagreement itself. Learning to fight fair, to communicate constructively during conflict, that's essential.
Definitely a skill to learn. Another huge area of conflict, money and love.
Ah, yes. The two most emotionally charged subjects, as the source calls them, and often the least discussed up front.
It talks about our money blueprint, right? How childhood shapes our financial habits.
Yes, and how we develop different financial personalities.
Mm.
The saver, the spender, the avoider, the investor, the planner.
So knowing your own style and your partner's is crucial before things get serious, before sharing finances.
Absolutely. You need those crucial money conversations about income, debt, giving, saving, family obligations, all of it.
To avoid surprises later on. And it warns about financial infidelity.
Big time. Things like secret accounts, hidden debts, lying about income. These destroy trust, just like romantic infidelity can.
Wow. The source has a great line here. Transparency is sexier than surprise shopping.
Huh? It's memorable, isn't it? It's about aligning your financial values and being open.
Okay, so communication, money. What about those warning signs? The source offers a big list of red flags and deal breakers, things love shouldn't ignore.
Yes, a crucial warning system. Let's hit a few really dangerous ones. Someone who constantly makes excuses for everything. Zero accountability.
Yeah, that's a big one. Or someone who rushes the relationship, that love bombing thing.
Exactly. Over-the-top affection really early on. It feels amazing, but it's often a manipulation tactic to create false intimacy quickly. Be wary of that intensity.
Okay, what else signals danger?
Disrespect and disagreement. If they resort to stonewalling, name-calling, humiliation, that's not healthy conflict, that's abuse.
Right. Also, inconsistency between words and actions. If they say they love you, but their actions show disregard or neglect, believe the actions.
Definitely. And a huge one, unwillingness to grow. If someone constantly says, this is just who I am, take it or leave it, especially about harmful patterns, that's a major red flag. They're signaling they won't change.
That refusal to take responsibility or grow. So why do people ignore these flags? They seem so obvious sometimes.
Well, the source points to several reasons. Fear of being alone is a big one.
Yeah, settling because it feels better than being single.
Right. Or holding on to hope they'll change, which rarely happens without their own internal decision to do so. Also, low self-worth, feeling like this is all they deserve.
Attachment trauma too, right? Repeating unhealthy patterns because they feel familiar.
Exactly. Plus, societal pressure to be paired up, and sometimes shame and secrecy prevent people from talking about the problems and getting outside perspective.
There's a really powerful takeaway here. You don't fix red flags with hope, sex, prayer, or patience.
No. You address them with boundaries, truth, and the courage to walk away. That takes strength.
And that other line, better to be single than sorry, better a delayed promise than a premature prison. Prioritizing your peace.
Absolutely. Which brings us back to forgiveness and conflict. How do we resolve things when hurt happens?
Forgiveness is presented as ongoing, right? Not a one-off.
Yes, a continuous process. The source talks about the psychology behind forgiveness, that it's really a gift to yourself. It frees you from bitterness, from being chained to that past hurt.
Releasing yourself from a self-made prison. I like that.
It outlines steps to true forgiveness, acknowledging the hurt, feeling the feelings, letting go of revenge, and making a conscious decision to forgive. But it also clarifies something crucial,
What's that?
that forgiveness doesn't always mean staying in the relationship. You could forgive for your own healing and still choose to walk away if the relationship remains unsafe or unhealthy.
That's a vital distinction. Forgiveness isn't reconciliation necessarily. It's about your own freedom.
Exactly. And alongside forgiveness, it emphasizes healthy conflict skills, active listening, using I statements, seeking compromise.
Okay, this has all been very focused on individual relationships, healing, patterns. But then the source takes a wider lens, doesn't it? It talks about a half-baked society.
It does. It shifts to a broader cultural critique, suggesting that many societal norms actually hinder true love and healing,
How does it define half-baked?
as seeking success without discipline, love without responsibility, pleasure without boundaries, mental health without accountability, faith without obedience, basically wanting the rewards without the work or the cost.
Wanting freedom without consequences, pleasure on tap. How does this relate to relationships?
Directly. The source lists symptoms of a half-baked generation that mess up our connections, like pleasure over principle, choosing immediate gratification over commitment, or doing the right thing.
Or over-sexualization and underdeveloped emotion. That line, people are having sex before they even have conversations.
All right, leading to physically intimate but emotionally shallow bonds, and the validation addiction, being addicted to being seen but starving to be known.
Constantly needing likes, followers, external approval instead of building internal worth. That definitely impacts how people show up in relationships.
Hugely, because they're always looking outside for something only they can build inside. The source also hits on fake healing, surface growth.
What does that mean? Like talking about trauma but not actually dealing with it?
Exactly. We romanticize trauma but never deal with it. So we acknowledge it, maybe even talk about it, but we don't do the deep, often painful work of processing it, so it just keeps playing out.
Keeps bleeding onto others, creating those cycles.
Right. And this leads into the harsh reality section. It's incredibly direct, almost confrontational.
Okay, brace ourselves. What's the harsh reality?
It really calls out self-deception and lack of discipline. Lines like, you don't drift into greatness, and if you keep choosing comfort over consistency, you will live beneath your purpose for the rest of your life.
Applying that to personal growth and relationships, you have to be intentional.
Yes. And it calls out broken people, breaking people. You can't keep bleeding on others and calling it personality. It states plainly, healing is your responsibility.
Nobody else can do it for you.
Exactly. It tackles wasted youth, wasted years, saying youth is not an excuse, it's a window. And windows close. You can't party through your youth and pray into purpose at 30. The time for choosing is now.
That's confronting. It challenges complacency.
It really does. It challenges faking healing, saying you're not healing if you're still bitter, still blaming, still seeking revenge, still attract chaos and call it passion. It demands authentic change.
Wow. And it says to stop blaming everything and
Yes. Trauma isn't a pass for bad behavior. Pain isn't a permit to destroy. It's about owning your story, your actions, your healing journey, taking radical responsibility.
This is intense. It leads to a pretty strong call to action, then.
Extremely strong. It's a call for profound transformation. Kill your pride. Repent for real. Forgive that person. Submit to authority. Say yes without terms.
Basically, stop making excuses and do the hard work.
Pretty much. The core message seems to be God doesn't need your popularity. He needs your purity. And then there's this note of hope woven through it all.
Yeah.
You don't need a perfect past to build a redeemed future.
Yeah.
Your brokenness doesn't have to define your destination. It can be fuel for change.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That was quite a journey. We've really taken a deep dive today through the complexities of love, starting with those hidden wounds from our past.
Yeah, those blueprints that shape us without us even realizing it sometimes.
Right. And looking at how society, this half-baked culture, can distort how we see connection.
And hopefully you, the listener, have seen just how crucial self-awareness is and intentionality. And for the author, that spiritual grounding in building relationships that actually work,
Yeah.
that thrive.
There's a line near the end that really sums it up. You were born to love, but first, you must learn how to heal.
That's powerful. Your story isn't finished. You really do have the power to write a different ending. A love story defined not by past pain, but by conscious choices, by healing.
And as the source says, you don't have to repeat what hurt you, and you don't have to settle for a love that costs your peace.
Amen to that.
So think about it. What patterns resonated most with you today? What's maybe one small, intentional step you could take this week towards your own healing, your own awareness?
Keep those questions with you. Let them simmer as you continue your journey.